Hey, happy Palm Sunday to you. We're just gonna just kind of check in with you. I wanted to share a story with you from yesterday. Hope y'all had a great Palm Sunday. We did at our church. We had some pretty awesome praise and worship music. We joined in communion together, and then just such an incredible morning. Went to my life group class. With the joinaires. I'm in there with a bunch of precious people, and this morning got to see some faces that I have not seen in a year. Just did my heart so good just to be able to see them, to hug their necks, and just really spend time with them. It was just such a wonderful, wonderful morning. Just it just did me good just to see them again, and be able to love on them and them love on me. So if you are joining me live, let me know. Drop me a comment down there. If you are catching the replay, do hashtag replay. I wanted to share something with you because every now and then I do something that's not quite so smart. And every now and then I get myself in a little bit of a mess, and then I'm like, God, you got to get me out of this. I know I did this to myself, but I need you to kind of help me out here. I got myself in a real big mess yesterday, and it took me a lot to push this button because I was like, I really don't want to tell on myself, but I want to brag on God. So I pushed the button. So I hope that this will encourage you. That sometimes when we get ourselves in messes, we have to call on the Lord because He's the only one that can get us out of that mess. So anyway, I am going to tell on myself just a little bit. But I want to preface this with sharing some scripture with you that I am studying. So I'm doing not Lisa, Priscilla Shire's Bible study on Elijah. And this past week, we've been reading about how the Lord took him from the brook Kerith, where God was refining him and really providing for him and building character in him, and just really building his faith and his reliance on the Lord, and showing him that he can depend on the Lord in this drought season. And then the Lord, allowed the brook to dry up. They were in a drought, and He told him to go to Zarephath, where He had already instructed a widow to care for him. Now, this widow had nothing. Like when Elijah went to this town, he didn't even know who he was looking for. Like, he didn't know her name. He didn't know what she looked like. He had to actually walk by faith and trust that when this woman came into his presence that he would know. And so, picture this. He's out there in Zarephath. He makes his way there. And, he's looking at all the widows. God, is this the one? Is that the one? I can picture him, out by, the town square, and all these women are walking by. And, hey, Becky, thank you for joining me. I love it, too. I love it. And, so all these women are walking by, and he's like, hey, Lord. I mean, I'm talking like, Lord's standing right there with him. Hey, Lord, is this the one? And so finally the woman does come into view, and he knows this is the woman. And he says, hey, would you go get me a glass of water, a drink of water? And she leaves to go get it, and so her faith is that she will be able to find it. And what Priscilla brought out in that study was they're in a drought. I mean, it's not like us going to get a drop of water, a drink of water, because we have ample supply. Like I have bottles of water everywhere. So all I got to do is just go get, somebody knocked on my door and said, hey, can I have a drink of water? I'm going to go get them a big old bottle, but she didn't have that luxury. Like, they're in a drought. Water was hard to come by, but yet God had laid it on her heart that, she would be providing for this guy. And she knew when she saw him, that was the man. And he knew when he saw her, that was the woman. And, just brought out in that study that she was faithful to take that step. And so Elijah called out to her and said, hey, and while you're at it, make me a cake and bring me some cake. And she's like, dude, I don't have a cake. I don't have any bread. And all I have is a little bit of flour and a little bit of oil in my cruise. And I was going to make me and my son one, and then we're going to die because we have nothing left. And Elijah says, go and do what you've said you're going to do, but then give me the first meal. And God has promised that it will not run dry. And so she does. She goes out, she bakes a cake for Elijah, and she has enough for her household. They eat. The next day she gets up, there's still enough flour and oil for the next meal. And day after day after day, God is supplying her need. And just, he's continuing. It doesn't run dry. It just continues. And so that's where my story begins. I was in Pigeon Forge this last weekend for a women's ministry conference, and just enjoyed a great time of fellowship and being in the Word, hearing lots of sermons that encouraged me but also challenged me. So really heard some great messages. But we were on our way home yesterday. And yesterday morning when I got up, and you'll kind of see where this is going. Like I said, I'm kind of telling on myself here. So I guess I'll start back with a few weeks ago. Or maybe a long time ago. I have always been one that I never let my gas in my car get below like a quarter of a tank. Or like now, my car will say, hey, you got 50 miles left. Well, when it says I got 50 miles left, I'm pretty much going to the gas station. I don't like to run out of gas, because I ran out of gas one time. When I was 17 years old, I had gone on a trip, and got back really late. It was like my senior celebration trip. Went to a cruise to the Bahamas. Came back really, really late at night, and I had to work the next day. I worked for my dad, and I was like, I didn't have, I'm sure I'd left like just a little bit of gas in my car, because I knew I was going on a trip. And then went to work, and then I thought, well, I have enough, to go home and come back, It was an old car. But anyway, I was on my way back home. I didn't go get gas, and I ran out of gas and was stranded on the side of the road. I don't even know if I had a phone, I may have had a car phone, but not real sure. Somehow my dad knew that I had run out of gas. So I don't know if I had a car phone. I know I had a bag phone when I went to college, and this was the summertime, so maybe I already had my bag phone, and I called and said I ran out of gas, and my dad came and he gave me a pretty good lecture. That's the only time I've ever run out of gas. And I never want to, because that was a horrifying experience for me. And so, 17 years old, I've never run out of gas since then. Now I've gotten pretty close. So a few weeks ago, I was on my way to Columbus, and I was low on gas, which, like I said, never happens, because I'm pretty good at filling up my car. And I was like, I've got enough to make it. I had an appointment in Columbus, and I was like, well, I've got enough gas, to get there. Well, I passed the gas station. I was like, I think I can make it to this gas station right next to my appointment. Well, getting there, it was like my gas, I was looking at how many miles to go I had, and it was getting lower and lower and lower. And finally it said low. Like the last number I saw was 10, and it said low after that. And I was like, I think I've got enough to get there. So I pull into the gas station, and my car has like a 15-gallon tank. And when I filled up, it was 14.8 gallons. 14.8. So I didn't have but just a little bit of gas left. So I was like pushing my luck there. Well, so we get ready to leave yesterday. And yesterday morning when I got up and was loading my car, I was like, I got to remember to get gas, before we leave Pigeon Forge, because, I had, just a little bit left. I mean, it hadn't dinged the 50-mile mark yet, so I was good, but I was like, I've got to get gas, and that was, before we had our worship service, whatever. So anyway, we get back in the car at like noon and getting ready to leave, and I'm like, I've got to stop and get gas. I've got to remember to do that. Well, sending some messages, talking about, our plan. I had a friend riding with me that I was taking to a hotel at the airport in Atlanta. I was dropping her off, and anyway, did not think anything else about getting gas. Just never dawned on me. Like, never. And so before going up there, we were traveling on I-75 and I-40. That's the way my GPS had told me to go. But this time it was taking me through Gatlinburg, through Cherokee, and that way. So I had not traveled that road in over 20 years. So anyway, we're going, and we get almost to Gatlinburg, right around Gatlinburg, and my car dinged at me that, hey, you're 50 miles till empty. And I looked at my friend Dina, and I was like, I gotta get gas soon. My car just dinged at me 50 miles. I meant to do it in Pigeon Forge, but just didn't think about it. So my mind is we're going through Gatlinburg, and there will be a gas station. Well, GPS is taking me through, of course, not to Gatlinburg, but through the Smoky Mountains. So, I'm still thinking we're going to have a gas station, right here before we go up into the national park. Well, I think you know where this story is heading, because as we're going up the mountain, I quickly realized that is not the case. And the GPS is saying that this is a 35-mile stretch, and I'm thinking, hey, I got 50 miles to empty, 35 miles, I'm still 15 miles to the good. Well, we start going up the mountain, and I start noticing that as we're going up, I'm using a little more gas. And so my mileage is going down. So then I'm seeing, hey, we're like at like 40 miles to empty. And we still have like 30 something miles to go. And we're still going up. It's still going up. About this time it starts raining. We had heard that the storms were coming. So, hey, Kathy. Starts raining. And we're still climbing up the mountain. My gas is still steadily going down. My friend and I are talking about what a wonderful weekend we had. We're still climbing the mountain, starting to rain. Pretty good. Traffic is pretty heavy. We're winding around. I'm starting to stress a little bit because I realize ain't gonna be no gas stations around here. And so then I'm like, God, I know I did this to myself. I really don't know why I didn't think about the gas thing. And I'm in a mess right here. And so then just, in my heart, in my mind, I just start praying. I'm like, God, I really don't know what to say. But you're going to have to help me because I'm going to run out of gas. And the reality of that started setting in. And then I'm thinking, like, we're going to be up on top of this mountain. No gas stations. And I'm going to be calling 911 and saying, I don't even know where I'm at. I'm somewhere between Gatlinburg and Cherokee on this mountain, and I've run out of gas. And they're going to be like, what kind of crazy nut are you? And I'm going to be like, well, So then, I'm steadily seeing my gas gauge go down. And we're still not at the top of the mountain. And then it starts hailing. Like we're in the middle of a hailstorm. Hail's dinging off my car, bouncing off my car. And I'm looking, and my gas gauge now says low. Like we haven't even gotten to the top of the mountain yet. Low is what I'm seeing. That means less than 10 miles in my tank. And then I look at my GPS, and it says we're still like 20 miles, 25 miles before we get out of the national park. What would you think? I mean, I think I'm going to be stranded up here. And so then, I'm really praying then, and I'm like, God, I mean, you know where the nearest gas station is. Just get me there. I'm trusting you mile for mile. I'm trusting you to get me to the gas station. I know it's my own craziness. It's my own fault. But God, please have mercy. And I'm just trusting you, just like I've been studying this in this Bible study about the widow. And that's what's going through my mind. Like, God has prepared me. He's given me this seed this week. I've known that story for a long time. But yet this week is the week that I've been studying it. And God, you sustained that widow in that drought season. And you gave her meal day after day after day. And you let that cruse of oil that never run dry. Well, God, I'm asking you to not let my gas tank run dry, but to get me to that gas station. So as we come out of that hailstorm, and I'll look at my friend and I'm like, Dina, I hate to tell you this. I really do. And I'm sorry, because I did this to us. But we're riding on fumes. And I'm praying that God will carry us through. And that he will keep putting gas in this tank. And he will let what little bit of gas I got left take us through this mountain and down into Cherokee to the first gas station we see. And she's like, well, I'm going to start praying now too. She was like, I wonder why you got so quiet. She was like, I could tell there was something wrong. And I was like, yep, that's what's wrong. And I said, but I'm believing. And I said, I've always said all my life that God looks out for fools and colquits, and I'm a colquit. And even though I'm a colquit, I did something very foolish, but it wasn't intentional. Like, right now, I still don't understand why I did not think about it, because that is generally, I'm usually on top of that. And so I think God was just giving me a miracle. I think God knew that he wanted to prove to me that I could trust him. I'm about to enter a new season of life, and I'll be sharing more about that with you later, but I think it was God just giving me assurance that he is going to sustain me. And so he allowed that to happen so that he could prove to me that he is sustaining me. And so as we went, like, mile after mile, he cleared the path. Like, there were cars in front of us that were like going very slow. And I'm like, I want to get down this mountain. God would let them pull over. And I'll tell you, when it was hailing on us, there was this time, and I know it was the enemy, because I'd already been praying. And then it was like the enemy said, you really need to pull off right here. You just need to pull off. It was hailing, raining. But you know what? I thought, it's like, no, I'm not pulling off. I'm pressing on, because I've got faith and trust that God's going to carry me through this. That he is going to give me exactly what I need, and that he's going to carry me through. And so mile after mile, we just kept traveling. We just kept going. You know what? My car never sputtered. It never sputtered. I had plenty of gas. Like, I was moving. I was running at a good pace. Cars in front of me, God kept making them move over, and I was passing through. And I was running on God's gasoline. We came down off the mountain, and we got to the first red light, and I looked over there, and there was an Exxon station. And I'd already told God, I was like, I don't care if it's $10 a gallon, I'm stopping at the first station I see. Because I was like, I'm not going to tempt God. I'm not going to, I've already tested it, But I pulled into that gas station, and I filled it up. Now, mind you, when I did this a few weeks ago, and like I said, I never do this. I think God was just showing me. He was preparing me for what was ahead. When I filled up a few weeks ago, it was 14.8 gallons that it took to fill up my car. Okay, so here's your lesson. Here's your math lesson. All right, so my car gets 24.6 miles to the gallon, okay? When the low light comes on, when it came on the other day, it came on at less than 10 miles to go. Okay, so what does that tell you? If we do the math, a half of a gallon of gas in my vehicle would be 12.3 miles. Half a gallon. Okay? So 10 miles is less than a half a gallon. Alright? So I fill up. I have a 15-gallon tank. I fill up. I put 14.5 gallons. That means I had a half a gallon in my tank. A half a gallon is 12.3 miles. When my car hit the low, that meant it had less than 10 miles to go in the tank. And we rode 20 to 25 miles on that half a tank of gas. And when I filled up, I still had a half a tank of gas. So I'm telling you, God kept putting gas in my tank for every mile. I was trusting Him. Dina was trusting Him. He put gas mile by mile in my car. Because honestly, as I was praying, you know what I was expecting to see for my own sanity? I was expecting to see that low light. I was expecting to see it start climbing. That's what I expected. It never did. It stayed low. Under 10 miles to go for 20 or 25 miles. God just continually filled up my tank. Just like He had filled up my tank spiritually over the weekend. So I just praise Him for that. I mean, that was a tangible miracle. And I just know that He sustained me, that He filled my tank up with gas, because at the bottom of that mountain, I still had a half a tank. And to me, that's a miracle, because I should have been stranded before I reached the top of the mountain with like 20 miles to go. So I hope that that encourages you. Now, I'm not saying do something stupid like that and test the Lord. I don't ever want to like test His mercy like that intentionally. But I am thankful that when I did something foolish, it wasn't intentional. When it just happened. You know, sometimes things just happen and we find ourselves in a mess. I just want you to know you can call on the Lord. And you have to have faith the grain of a mustard seed. And I told my friend when we got down there, I said, my mustard seed size faith is now an acorn. Because it grew with that. And so, you know, it was just amazing to me, because I knew that unless God sustained us, we wouldn't have made it. Like, we didn't have the gas to get off of that mountain. But I'm super thankful that the Lord is more faithful than me and that He hears our cry of help. You know, Psalm 34:18 says that the Lord is near. I'm thankful that the Lord was near when I called on Him in my time of need. You know, the Bible says that He is near and that we can call on Him and that He hears our cry. And that's why, you know, it's so important to be in a relationship with Him, because we can call on Him. And just like He sustained Elijah and He sustained that widow during that season of drought and famine, and He gave them exactly what they needed for every day. Just like in the wilderness, He gave the Israelites exactly what they needed. He rained down manna from heaven every day. He sustained them every day through the wilderness. He allowed their clothes to never grow old. He allowed their clothes and their shoes and their sandals to grow with them through that 40 years. He sustained them, and He'll sustain us today. And I'm so thankful for that. And I'm thankful that He had mercy on me yesterday. And that He just saw me through. Hey, Christy, thanks for joining us. You know, I'm super thankful for that. And you know what? That will be a story of a miracle that I'll share for the rest of my life. Because it was tangible. It was tangible. So Anyway, I hope that that encourages you. I hope that you will keep your tank filled up. Don't don't run a risk of running out of gas on the side of the road. I went to Columbus today and I filled up before I came home. So hope y'all have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.